good, everybody? Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to call things to order at 10:01. Board of Commissioners, if you would please rise if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Is there any public comment at this time for items not under consideration? Okay. Seeing no one, we're going to move to our consideration of our minutes from our Tuesday and Thursday Board of Commissioners meeting. Would there be a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve the minutes from the April 14th and April 16th Board of Commissioner meetings.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on them? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Under COVID-19 planning and response, we have consideration of a letter, and this would be to our congressional delegation, our two U.S. senators, our two congressional representatives, so 4 total, and it would be regarding the current bill that's being considered in Washington. And this letter is a draft that our National Association of Counties has provided to us. And what it is essentially is it's encouraging the legislation and advocating for the legislation to include a provision that would get money to counties below 500,000 in population. The $2.2 trillion CARES Act gave money directly to counties that were 500,000 or more. And so we are uncertain if we're going to be getting anything from that. And so if we would have the inclusion of that in that, it would be very beneficial to us, not only from an employment standpoint, but service standpoint. It'd be a really, really positive thing. So we're advocating that. Many other counties across the country are doing the same. Only about 5% of counties throughout the country are 500,000 or more. The vast majority, about 90%, are actually 500,000 or under. So this would be sent to our congressional delegation once again, but the draft is in front of us. Would there be any changes, comments, edits to it? Okay.
Yeah, I have a couple of quick comments.
Please, sure.
As you mentioned, Mike, there are not a whole lot of counties with populations of over 500,000. I think only 7 of Pennsylvania's 67 counties do have populations of over 500,000. So at this point, the other 60 of us are looking at perhaps maybe some reimbursement for direct COVID expenses. But beyond that, we're hoping the state of Pennsylvania might reallocate some money our way based on what they receive. I've been on conference calls both statewide and nationally, and there's overwhelming support amongst the county commissioners statewide and nationwide for some sort of program for counties of all size.
Okay, thank you. So again, this would be to Senator Casey, Senator Toomey, Congressman Thompson, and Congressman Keller. Would there be a motion to approve sending the letter to the members of Congress?
Motion to approve the letter to members of Congress concerning the 4th COVID-19 response package.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on it? Hearing none and seeing none on the call here. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Okay. All right, heading into our request for proposals. Margaret, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm reporting this morning for our planning office. This item is in relationship to the proposals received by the Board of Commissioners 2 weeks ago, April 6th, in response to an RFP that was issued for a project to benefit the Mountaintop Activity Center located in Clarence, and specifically to assist with the development of restroom and shower facilities in their future community center. It is the final project of the final project of the 5 projects awarded with funding that was received from the DCED Keystone Communities grant arranged for by former State Representative Mike Hanna. So 2 weeks ago, we opened up 3 bids at 3 proposals, and the proposals have been reviewed. And this morning, I would like to ask for your approval to move forward with contract negotiations with J.C. Orr. Both of the proposers had comparable experience and expertise, and the review team felt that the J.C. Orr proposal presented a more complete proposal that included general contracting as well as plumbing work that was identified in the scope of the RFP. So the request this morning is to enter into contract negotiations with J.C. Orr.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Any questions, comments from Margaret? Just in terms of the level of funding, we know that some grant dollars were allocated. Do we have an understanding of what their proposed total cost is and how that would be broken out?
We do not at this time because that will take place during contract negotiations.
Okay,
The
all right.
total amount of the grant funding that we have is $40,000. Both proposals came in over that, so this needs to be negotiated down to meet the grant funding.
Okay, all right, sounds good. So again, we're not signing the contract today, but we are entering into negotiations. Yep.
Negotiate. Mhm.
All right, would there be a motion?
Motion to enter into contract negotiations for the RFP involving the Mountaintop Activity Center.
Been moved and seconded to enter into contract negotiations with J.C. Orr. Is there any final discussion, comments on this? Okay, hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you, Margaret. Moving into our contracts for Human Services and MHID.
Yes, the first item this morning is an addendum to the letter of agreement with Strawberry Fields to provide additional early intervention services in the amount of $100,000. This increases the contract maximum already in place from $345,000 to $445,000. It is funded with state funds $400,500 and county funding of $44,500. This is for the period of July 1st, 2019 through June 30th of 2020. This is a common practice where we make up for units of service provided, add to the contract. Second item is a letter of agreement, also from the MHID office with the Phillipsburg-Osceola Area School District to provide drug and alcohol and/or mental health services to the school and its students through the Contracted Student Assistance Program Service Provider Agreement. There is no cost for this contract, and it's for the period of September 1st, 2019 through August 31st of 2020. And the third item is an agreement with the Bedford County Board of Commissioners to provide legal representation for mental health hearings. Bedford County shall be responsible for the legal rates set by Center County for people held in the Center County Court of Common Pleas. This agreement shall be in effect until terminated by providing a 30-day notice. And those are the three items.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Any questions on those three? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to add the MHID items 1 through 3 to next week's consent agenda.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final comments? Hearing none here in the room or online, we'll take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay, thank you, Margaret. And for discussion then, we'll turn it over to our CEDACOG representative from the Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Higgins, for some news here. Thank you, Commissioner.
And I'll have hard copies for the press in attendance here at the end of the meeting. But the Board of CEDACOG, which represents an 11-county region, just initiated a new program to help small businesses in this area. We meet on Tuesday as one of the first counties in that region, so I think this might be a little bit of a scoop for press here in attendance. So this is for immediate release to assist small businesses in Center, Clinton, Columbia, Juniata, Lycoming, Montour, Northumberland, Perry, Potter, Snyder, Sullivan, and Union counties. CEDACOG has created a revolving loan fund program. Roughly $400,000 in new loans will be available to for-profit companies in the 11-county CEDACOG region. The terms and conditions for the underwriting process would include no payments to be due in the first 6 months of the loan. The amortization will be over a 3-year term. Interest will accrue from the first day, and the interest for the first 6 months will be added as a balloon payment as part of the last installment. The loans will have an interest rate of 3.25%, which is a very reasonable rate. The funds may be used for a broad array of working capital purposes and can be dispersed based on past working capital expenses, so a lot of flexibility there. Loans will be secured by a blanket lien on business assets, and a loan shall be guaranteed by all individuals or entities with a 20% or greater ownership interest. There will be a $500 underwriting and application fee, plus the standard UCC filing fee, which is usually around $100. These fees will be charged once the loan funds are dispersed. So if you don't qualify for the program, there would be no fees. And you can deduct that from the loan proceeds. Currently, the expected minimum loan is $10,000. To apply, you would email Douglas Wilburn, the Director of the Business Finance Department at the CEDACOG Council of Governments at dwilburn@ceda-cog.org. I'll have that email for the two of you when the meeting's over, but that's dwilburn@ceda-cog.org. We encourage Center County businesses to apply as soon as possible. If the revolving loan fund is oversubscribed, this demonstrates the need for more small business assistance programs at the regional, state, and federal levels. If the first round of CEDACOG revolving loan fund is successful, it is possible that additional funding could be developed. So mentioning this to my other two commissioners, this program is available effective immediately. It will run somewhat like the other programs in terms of there'll be an initial flood of applications. Once it appears that there are enough applications for the funds to be dispersed, then they'll cut off the application period, and the CEDACOG Board of Directors, which is 11 county commissioners and 11 business people and elected officials throughout the region, will determine which companies receive the loans. Any questions from the press on this at this point?
How many companies do you think, at least from the Center County's perspective, are currently in need of this, or will be?
I suspect in Center County it's hundreds of companies that would be interested. We are roughly 25% of the population of the CEDACOG region. So, if they were allocated at, to make the math easy, $10,000 minimum, that would be 40 loans. So, we would hope maybe we would have 7, 8, 9 loans in Center County if they were at the minimum level. Obviously, if somebody can make a good case for 25,000 or more, perhaps they would receive that amount, which would reduce the total number of loans.
Following up with that, the timeliness of this, obviously, we keep hearing more and more news about more big events in Center County being canceled. The impact of that, so a lot of these smaller businesses maybe rely on these summer events. Is that maybe perhaps an incentive for rationale for them to want to take these loans down?
Definitely. And since this is a local program that'll be processed literally in Lewisburg, hopefully we can get this money out fairly quickly. And of course, with no payments for 6 months, you wouldn't be starting payments on this until well into the fall, maybe even the early winter.
Go ahead.
Are you eligible for this if you've received money either for state or federal assistance funds?
Good question, Gary. Yes, there are no other, at this point that I'm aware of, there are no other qualifications besides being a for-profit business located in the 11 county region. So if you receive money from any of the various other programs, that's great. If you need more, this is available as well.
Is there any other program like this, obviously in addition to state federal dollars,
Right.
but any other program like this currently in existence, at least for Center County businesses?
There are roughly 8 economic development districts throughout the state of Pennsylvania. I think CEDACOG is the first one to take this effort forward. It's possible that some of the other county era groupings in the state might take a look at it. I do know, I believe the U.S. Small Business Association currently has $5,000 grants that would be available. I believe the CBICC has been mentioning that. But outside of that program, I'm not aware of anything else at this point in Center County. I don't know if my other fellow commissioners are either. No.
They're talking about reallocating funds to the Paycheck Protection Program, but,
Right.
probably $250 billion. So that is another opportunity again for Center County businesses to obtain working capital.
Which would be great, yes. Additional questions from the press? Thanks. Very, very good questions, and I'll have a hard copy for both of you before the meeting's over.
Thank you, Commissioner Higgins. We know that your passion for small businesses is even greater now with the pandemic occurring, so thank you for updating us on that. We're going to head into some personnel items. We've combined our Tuesday and Thursday meetings just so that we can make sure that we're keeping everybody safe and staying at home as much as possible, working from home as much as possible. We do have these 3 items on personnel for our correctional facility, emergency communications, and facility management. Would be a motion to approve all 3.
Motion to approve the 3 personnel items.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Okay. We do want to note that the sheriff has approved the personnel requisition for a full-time deputy at the airport, the deputy sheriff airport security position 2. And we just do want to know that. And we have our check run, Commissioner or Higgins, I should say.
Yes, substantially smaller than normal check run of $679,959.78. The checks of the week are to, I believe it's pronounced Bears All About Kids, LLC. It's 3 checks for early intervention for January, February, and March, totaling together $4,094.44. We had an item earlier on the agenda that discussed early intervention. These are county services for children between birth and the age of 3 to 4 who are experiencing developmental delays. Some of our best county dollar spend because it handles issues at little to no cost to the family, while it's easy to resolve them since the child is quite small. I will make the motion to approve the check run dated April 17th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the check run. Any further discussion on the check run? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. We have one CNET request today, and that would be for the sponsorship to promote training through the local Stewards of Children program to protect children from sexual abuse and to raise and recognize the signs that sexual abuse may be happening. And so this would be an opportunity for us to sponsor that training, or should say promote the training that's going to be occurring in the near future. So there'd be a motion to approve the sponsorship.
Motion to approve the sponsorship for CNET.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the sponsorship. Any other discussion needed on this? Hearing none, seeing none here. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay. Commissioner Dershowitz, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, we have a voter registration report this morning that includes 109,228 total registered voters in Center County. That's down 64 from a report a little while ago. And all other voters include 4,691 registrants. Okay, the Democratic Party has 46,395 voters. The Green Party, 149, Libertarian, 671. No affiliation, 14,502, and the Republican Party has 42,820 registered voters for the upcoming primary. The minor party of the day is the Freedom Party. The Freedom Party, of course, was picked out of order, but I thought, considering the times we're in, we'll hopefully be out free and able to operate as normal here soon. And there are 2 Freedom Party members here in Center County. The featured precinct of the week is Patton South 3 that votes at the Park Forest Baptist Church on Carnegie Drive. In the last election, they had registered 2,040 voters. 857 ballots were cast, which leaves a voter turnout percentage at 42.01%. And the folks that make it happen, Cynthia Conover was the judge of elections. Tara Campbell is the minority inspector. Kathleen Cathcart is the majority inspector. And the clerks include Ann Donovan, Sue Duffy, Leslie Laniger, and Carol Pioli. So we want to thank, again, the Park Forest Baptist Church for allowing us to use your facility. And we'll look forward to coming back in, I guess, the 2nd of June. So that's my report for the day.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. We have no announcements, but do we have any executive sessions we'd like to report?
Yes, the Board of Commissioners met in an executive session on Thursday, April 16th, from 10:13 a.m. until 11 to discuss a legal matter.
Thank you, Margaret. Before we look to adjourn, we welcome any questions from the press.
Here's the governor, the magic date that was given us for May 8th. Your take on that for the sort of, we'll call it, move back to normalcy, beginning of moving back to normalcy. Do you think that's a proper date to begin with that process?
Sure. So in terms of what that means is it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be all businesses are going to be able to go back into operation. He's still putting out, as he said yesterday, there's going to be guidance that there's going to be provided. But in terms of the construction industry, it looks like that's going to be something that he's going to be bringing back online, making sure they have guidance. So I think it's welcome news. But I think that the key thing is for everybody to remember that most likely universal masking is going to continue well for the rest of the year. We're still going to have to wear masks, still going to have to keep people safe. In terms of the large events that we're seeing, there probably is not going to be many large events that are coming into this year. Those organizations and boards are going to be making those determinations. So in terms of saying we're going to be going back to normal, I think that there's many, many months, if not a year or more, until we can get back to normal, not wearing the masks, being in large groups. But in terms of doing work in a safe manner, that of course can happen. And the key thing is, here's the key thing, every single model, every single projection shows that eventually there's going to be a rise back in cases. That's just how viruses work. You talk to virologists, epidemiologists, they all say that eventually there's going to be some sort of increase. If it happens in the fall, if it happens in the summer, we don't know. But the power is truly in people's hands. If people wear masks, if they continue to wash their hands, if they avoid large groups, I know it's very difficult, but if they do that, we can hopefully push this thing back, maybe even into the next year. But if we start to see people not doing that, there's going to be a surge of cases, and there's going to have to be then a drawdown and a drawback of these businesses. So if businesses and people are able to continue to do this, we're going to have a lot of great success. But really, that true power and that true we've heard a lot said about the virus controls the timeline. I appreciate that, but people also can play a huge role in that. And if they, again, mask up, stay out of large groups, there's a tremendous amount of work that can be done. But if we relax those things and we don't do those things, we're going to see a surge in the cases, and that's not going to be good for anybody. So pleased to see the governors moving forward. I think that's a good compromise stance, but I do think that there's still a lot that we as people need to do and recognize.
I personally, I just want to say that I am relieved to see that the governor is allowing construction to continue. So many people in our community are reliant on their incomes from the construction. Plus, Center County itself, we're in the middle of a major project over there to sit idle for the last 6 weeks, and we really need to kick that back into gear, and we need to get people back to work. I'm really concerned that this is going to have an impact that's much more long-lasting than just the length of this coronavirus pandemic. You're talking about the livelihoods and futures of entire sectors of our population. So I think I personally am relieved that the governor has chosen to give the construction folks the opportunity to come back to work.
My fellow commissioners covered quite a bit, but I will want to mention to the people at home that Center County government does not have a health department. We have no one on staff with any significant expertise in public health. So we will be relying on the governor, the State Department of Health, the federal CDC and other federal agencies for guidance here at the local level. And I certainly hope that as the reopenings begin to happen, that everything will be based on science and public health expertise. Thanks.
Friday, we got word about the 4 events being canceled. The hotel motel surcharge tax, has there been any discussion about changing the percentage of what goes to the county and those type of events this year in terms of with them canceling, with the lack of income, any kind of discussion like that?
Commissioner Higgins is our representative.
Sure. There's been no discussion at this point of changing any of the ratios. I believe under the new law, the county would keeps roughly 4% of the revenues for administration, and 96% of that goes on to the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
I think one of the big losers in this conversation, though, is we have the opportunity to provide another portion of that money to the not-for-profits in the community. And I think that just because of the fact that we are going to see such a diminished revenue stream, that a lot of the not-for-profits are not going to see the numbers perhaps next year that they have in the past. And I don't know what impact that's going to have as we move forward, because quite simply the number of lodging beds in Center County is going to be very diminished from previous years.
Just to offer the the executive directors and the board of directors at each of those organizations. It's an absolutely tough decision for many of them. It was the first time they were canceling since the organization existed. But I think we all agree as a community the last thing we would want is people from Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, New York City coming here and coming into Center County. Those are hotbeds. We don't want to become a hotbed. So we thank them for doing that. They kept our community safe by making that tough decision, that tough call. So it wasn't easy, and I think what it means is later in the year, if they hold this, or if it's in 2021, we're going to come back stronger than ever and have these events be larger than ever.
It's been a week since you announced furloughs, personnel changes. Are you looking at any more employee layoffs at this point, or still trying to figure out what's going on?
Sure. So this week, we're going to be developing a way for elected officials and department heads to communicate back to us requests to either bring people back or maybe even potentially further reduce their staffing based upon where levels of service are at. We're in constant contact with the courts and the president judge about where she's at. We saw York County extend their court closure until May 31st. That's a possibility. It could also be possible that we could be operating in mid-May, the courts. But they're getting a lot of good things online in terms of being able to have hearings online or by video, in addition to the current software and hardware we have. So they're working constantly to get up to that point. So we'll see in terms of the courts. But yes, we're monitoring it. We're having constant conversations with department heads and elected officials. And we appreciate everybody giving that data and flowing that back to us.
The courts are separate. Just because the governor says he wants to lift the stay at home at May 8th, that doesn't mean the courts are going to reopen on that day, right? The courts have a separate order?
Correct. As of today, the order that President Judge West has in place is May 1st, no sooner than May 1st. So their first day of operation could conceivably be, in-person operation, would conceivably be Monday, May 4th. But again, that could change, and we would be communicating with her and seeing what her lead is on that.
Steve, I wanted to ask you, because you're on prison board, to clarify a story from last week about the inmates released from county prison. Were they released solely due to concerns tied to COVID-19, or were some released?
To the best of my knowledge, it was that a lot of it is just a natural order of release. People termed out, if you will, and their sentences were up, and they were released. My fellow commissioners may be able to add some other texture to that, but I think the courts were obviously aware of some of the more vulnerable folks and looked at those individually. But I think just the natural state of transition from inmate to a returning citizen was, to the best of my knowledge, that's what I understand.
So there were some, but the vast majority were individuals who were, where you had the DA, probation, the courts, the correctional facility, come together, figure out where it would be. Basically, within a month, we reduced the Center County population by 43 individuals, from about 120 down to 80. So we reduced that within a month, and typically we don't have that many releases. But to go to Commissioner Dershin's point, there were some individuals that just naturally were released due to their sentence being up or their minimum being met, but others were released because they were high vulnerability, and the feeling from everybody around the table was that they would not pose a public safety risk, but if kept in the facility. And as we saw, we had our first individual incarcerated with test positive for COVID-19. So we want to get as many high-risk individuals out as possible.
Do you know if there's any further plans to release further inmates, or any more inmates?
So there's a list of all of our inmates that is currently being looked over, but I think that this is the vast majority, based upon conversations with the warden and president judge, of individuals that we would be at.
It's my understanding that due to the very short sentence length, your average inmate is at the Center County Correctional Facility for only 3 to 4 months. So there's a lot of natural turnover. And at this point, I believe we have our lowest Center County population since the prison was opened, about a dozen years ago, Steve?
Yeah, that's actually quite a bit lower.
Yeah, and that's artificially lower because we release those people, but yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Any more word on the one inmate, just how, I think the release listed, but how long, any other, additional concerns there for potential spread?
Sure. So the individual is doing well. There's no need for hospitalization at this time. The staff at the facility, upon learning about the case over the weekend. They had a protocols in place when it was not an if, but when. So they knew that, they put things in place, were able to get individuals who had come in contact with them into isolation, making sure they were masked up. So there were a lot of protocols that just went into place simply because that one event happened. You know, our correctional officers and our county employees across the county that are doing frontline work, coming in contact with people day in, day out. We want to make sure they're protected. We want to make sure that they're safe. And so we're monitoring them, all those individuals at the facility. And if there's any need for them to not come in because of symptoms they may be having, we're going to work with them. Because we have a lower population count at the facility, that means that we can have a more flexible schedule with some of them. So that's a positive thing. But yeah, we're worried that it is in the facility, and we're doing what we can. Sure, absolutely. All right, any other questions on the phone here? Okay, we're seeing none. We'd look then for a motion to adjourn, and we do not need to go into executive session, correct, Margaret? Okay. We'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 10:32.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.